Watch this. Taylor is pointing to the bleachers. He's calling his shot.
I know you. We've been here before. No surprises. A settled score. I know the darkness from inside. Reckless rage and poison pride. I know the weakness. I know the pain. I know the fear we do not name.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay calm.
everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
That's right, folks. Secrets and Shadows Tier 3 has finally fallen. And before we begin, I gotta give the shoutouts. Quietstorm was my original partner in crime, who was theory crafting. We knew even a couple of years ago what it would take to get this event beaten. It was a high armor DACA, and we'll get to the modding in a minute, but they were the person really originally willing to put on the extra relics. They had crazy nice sisters. Mine were flaming hot garbage, so I could not really do the runs myself, right? I just knew stats wise what would work. They stepped back from the game, so that we got relegate, we got better mods, we got relic 9. I was pretty much dead in the water until Desi rolled around. They were of a similar mind to me. They decided it was high time this event went down. It's been far too long. Someone had to do it. They were willing to put in whatever it took, and we got it. We got it with passing flying colors. I have never seen a Sidious Wave 4 look so boring. Of course, people are going to be skeptical, and completely fairly, right? But we'll let the footage rock here in a second. I think I'm fine. Like, I don't think we necessarily high rolled. I don't think we necessarily low rolled either. DACA revived everyone. We landed our plague. It was it was fine. It was a plain simple run. Most of the heavy lifting was done in the modding side, right? Speaking of, let's get over to mods, and you can see very quickly what's going on here. A couple of things to point out. First and foremost, obviously being DACA. I mean, if you run tier 2 at all, I would hope you know crit avoidance DACA, complete core staple. Of course, that's not going anywhere here. But the real main point was trying to hit this combination of about 67% armor, as well as just cramming in as much health as possible. Speed ended up being quite low, to the point where there was some friction, and there were some pretty bad runs where wave 2 Maul, they get the stun on DACA, they get the daze on DACA. It certainly cut back on the number of successful runs. We did get the event clear with about an hour and 45 minutes of run attempts. Not to say that it would consistently only be 2 hours of gameplay every single time, but that is how it landed. And for the most part, we did get a couple calls before that too. So overall, wasn't too bad there. On top of that, of course, we have, well, I say of course, I think some people might be surprised. Mother Talzin running crit damage. Now, why am I doing this? This is because the Sidious encounter in itself does not care about your Asajj damage. It does not care about anything except for Sidious's health pool. If Mother Talzin is able to hit the crit with all the extra damage for just as much burst as possible, this helps put initial pressure on Sidious's health pool, so that as you start racking up those plague stacks, you want him to be on the back footing. You want him to be as close to dead as possible. To that end, I noticed in a couple of the close calls we had that it seemed like Challenge Tier 3 has extra tenacity involved. So one of the last changes that I made, and this ended up sticking into the final run, was making sure that Talia and Asajj Ventress had potency. Now, in the winning run, I did notice that Night Sister Zombie was actually able to keep her stacks up, and so she was actually able to keep moving. So honestly, giving her extra potency probably would have been justified as well. She did get an attempt to try to land potency in the run, and she failed, right? So that meant that the run could have been even better for us had I actually bothered to make that switch. I'm not gonna lie, in the majority of runs, she was down to -2 stacks. She was never taking a turn. So that's why I elected not to make that change. But hey, looking back at the gameplay, that could have mattered. Anyway, aside from that, Talia just blazing fast, you know, giving her as much speed as possible. Zombie as well, just trying to make her fast to keep her relevant for as long as possible, maintain those stacks. And Asajj kind of just on a generic crit damage, health blend, just trying to make the most usage of Rampage, give her some decent scaling potential, and yeah, getting that extra potency in to help that plague. Now, there are some things that I want to break down and explain if anyone is curious to try to reproduce this, but for now, I'm going to let the footage rock playing, and then I will break down those concepts. You can find the timestamps below. Otherwise, enjoy. Now, I guess just to break down the process really quick. Wave 1 has always been really simple. all you really need to do is make sure that Mother Talzin gets her plague AoE out, and then you can just take it to auto basic. This is not a threatening encounter for you. Even if your Night Sisters are pretty mediocre, it's pretty hard to lose, right? So we do auto basic just for the sake of not wasting the specials, because wave 2 is pretty hard, right? So there's nothing really fancy to say here. You just take your win, get through the wave. Maybe you can try to toggle off during the end just to try to see if you can enter wave 2 in not so much of an ugly state, you know, maybe heal up a little bit if you need to. But otherwise, yeah, wave 1 is pretty unremarkable. Now, going into wave 2, it is honestly, I still think almost one of the hardest waves, like in terms of actual combat encounter, right? Sidious, AoE RNG aside, this wave will actually just kill you, right? You have the combination of the AoE daze, stuns coming out from Assassin, and it honestly is just kind of a fight and a struggle to survive. The way that you usually try to solve this wave is, of course, with Mother Talzin AoE, but a big factor of that is Mother Talzin has to stay alive for plague to continue to exist. If Mother Talzin dies, the plague will stop spreading, the plague will start expiring, and unless you can try to not have your Daka fall under and start getting stun spams, you don't really get a second chance. You can try. It's somewhat possible, but on average, you are not going to get it. But the majority of this wave is mostly just trying to reach this point where at least you try to get Maul out, right? If Mother Talzin dies, but Maul dies, you usually can try to recover, right? They will have stuns, but on average, they'll keep killing zombie or other people. Daka can try to rally once she gets the days off of her. It'll be all right. And to that end, that's why you see that we have the event ability used here so that old Daka has the extra speed up. He is not modded for speed here, and you could maybe have the budget depending on your mods to give her a little bit extra speed, but she's dressed for success, right? She's not planning for this wave, and so any extra help that we can try to give her to just get us through this wave without having to make too many compromises is definitely where you want to be. Now for wave 3, your main concern is to make sure that Talia does get her AoE cleanse back, and ideally you just don't really want to have any specials wasted going into wave 4. This wave, you know, if you get a little bit too greedy, it's certainly possible to lose, but for the most part, unless you just, you know, auto basic and walk away or something, you're gonna be pretty okay in this wave. The main thing I wanted to shout out here, even though honestly, I didn't actually get a chance to do this in the winning run. That's the ironic thing, is the run that won, I actually thought was kind of a bad run. I figured, you know, we'll play it out, we'll see what happens, but you'll see here. We don't get to do any of the special tech, but anyway, because we have it, I want to show the special tech anyway. What I'd like to do is in wave 3, if you can make it through without putting down plague, you want to get to the spot where Talia is dead and Talzin is dead. You have Daka and Asajj able to seesaw their basics back and forth, keep feeding Terminator back and forth. Asajj gets a lot of offense. Daka, of course, gets nice and bulky as well, but you mainly just want to try to make sure that you can get through with Daka having good health into the next phase. What this does is this lets the dead Night Sisters rack up Terminator, so Sidious goes into the next wave. Sidious pops his AoE. Daka pops Revive. Everyone who's been dead this entire time, immediately full Terminator, right? That gets you your immediate Talia cleanse. Get the junk off of Daka, you can start putting on pressure. That's what it's all about. So yeah, you're trying to avoid putting plague on them, because once plague is on them, it's very difficult to stop them from just dying outright. And yeah, ideally you want to try to make sure that Talia and Talzin go under as well. Obviously that did not happen in the winning run, but you know, worst case scenario, if you know they're going to die, at least try to make sure that Talia has decently high Terminator if she isn't going to be dead, or if she dies shortly before the wave goes over. Now, got a little bit lucky. I was able to set up a situation where they are able to kill Talia for me. B2 is a fantastic time staller here, as well as Dooku. Dooku, I try to make sure that Talia and Talzin both use basic on Dooku, so they can be countered to try to accelerate their deaths. And then Daka, B2, and so on, I will aim at B2 because he will take less damage. And yeah, so you run into this situation. I want to rewind real quick. You run into this situation where Asajj is able to get the kill shot with the AoE on 3 people at once. Of course, with Rampage, I mean, her cooldowns are reset, sure, But why this is really important is because with a triple kill with the AoE with her Rampage offense being so nuts, you will go into the next wave with Asajj at full turn meter. Why is this important? This is useful because you are able to double basic. And every time a Night Sister revives and assists and then dies, Daka is getting extra health. I believe there actually is a bug here. You will see. According to Towson lead rules, she is only supposed to get 1 assist. I don't remember, this can manifest 2 ways. Okay, you see we get a double assist here. It's a little bit odd. Talia and Towson both assist at once, and then Daka does a basic and nothing happens. The whole point being though, you get 2 sisters to die and revive, and then die again from Towson lead. That gets your Daka an extra 20% health, and with all of that extra armor that we put on, she only takes 116k here. She is a 157k beforehand from the Relic 9 from the mods. Even if you had a Relic 8 Daka, this is why I think Relic 8 actually might have a chance at this. Is because if you can bring this seesaw technique in, grab that extra health and get the right RNG, the math says you should be able to get this done. It just depends on what mods you have available. I think I'm going to do some streaming today because I'm an idiot. I kind of would think that Relic 8 Daka could pull this off if done right. Of course, the winning run did not have to rely on this, and there's something to be said that you're making things even harder on yourself by not only getting through the Sidious way with good RNG, but wanting to run a mod setup that needs this type of good setup to make it in. But on some level, what do you do? Hey, perfect example, right? Towson no revive. That is an instant restart. What a fun event, right? So yeah, honestly, wave 4 itself, not really a whole lot to comment on. We hit the revive, we hit everyone, very important. 3 sisters immediately at full turn meter. Also extremely good as a start, right? Asajj with the taunt, everyone else with the speed up. Towson hit a pretty solid plague crits. And I wasn't sure how it was going to feel every time that Towson lead basic causes a dead sister to revive. It is feeding Sidious some healing. And I figured that would be bad for us. I figured that might be a run reset. But we were able to persevere. We were able to land enough plague stacks. I would say the sweet spot is usually about 8. Right? So we missed the Asajj revive, which gives him a little bit of healing, but he gets turn meter, he has enough play stacks, and he goes down. Pretty simple, right? Moving on to wave 5 though, I was a little bit shocked at how easy it was. To be honest, I was nervous that this could be as brutal, if not more brutal, than 2 Wiz, and even 4 necessarily, right? You have the revive block here, you have an AoE mower here, you have Darth Vader just being a general hassle to deal with. I thought there was very real potential for this to go south. The fact that we came in with 1 sister dead was honestly kind of a blessing, I would say, because we were able to get a little bit of extra Daka fuel to start, which certainly helped. And yeah, so, you know, obviously you prefer Asajj to be alive on the seesaw, but Towson is an acceptable choice here. And yeah, nothing really to say here. We mostly just seesaw back and forth. Stone Trooper got the kill on Towson. I was worried for a second that it was a Death Trooper execute, but it was not. And yeah, we wrap up our Night Sister stats. We got through the rest of the wave without too much hassle. Wave 6, very much the same case. 4 First Order Stormtroopers. There wasn't really a whole lot of pushback here. It was fine. Just get your sisters dead, get Asajj a bunch of stacks, kill them. The one thing I actually do think I was almost close to misplaying here is the problem with keeping Talia and Towson dead for too long is they don't get their cooldowns back, right? It's fantastic stacks for Daka and Asajj. It is bad for the purpose of having good buttons to push when the fights get harder. So get a little bit overzealous with that. I kind of realized it towards the end, and I believe pop Daka heal instead. But at this point, the wave was already pretty close to dead, and so in terms of getting cooldowns back, it wasn't quite the cleanest. Maybe, you know, just keep that in mind, right? Don't go too crazy on the sister stacking. Moving into wave 7, I was also a little bit nervous about this, right? You have Kylo Ren, pretty plague resistant, and also has the counterattack with the heal block, and our zombie is unable to taunt. I did get a plague stun on him early on, but again, his speed also gets quite high. And so this seemed like it would end up being messier than it was. You know, we did take some damage along the way, but yeah, just 1 mass assist was all it really took to be able to get him down. And now slowing this down going into the last wave because things moved very quickly here overall. We did have Nihilus do a couple moves before annihilating, or I believe he went for a zombie. And we were stuck in this spot, I believe, again, where the cooldowns were used a little bit too quickly. I did not have Talzin's AoE going into this last wave, which had me a little bit nervous. We only just now got it. Honestly, decent that it went this way because we were able to get 2 immediate stacks on Nihilus. But still, ultimately, this wave will mostly just end when Nihilus dies of Plague. And we're mostly just nervous about a Talzin revive, or annihilate, right? The revive, or the annihilate does not block revives, but it still doesn't necessarily mean that it's not terrifying to us, right? Daka is the main way that we keep afloat. If we lose Daka, then we lose a lot of the synergy value there. So we have Talzin back alive, able to at least keep spreading some plague pressure. Probably could even use the vent special there. Hopefully I use it at some point here. I think at this point it should just be a pretty solid win, but maybe got a little bit too confident at the end. And maybe a couple mistakes made. But yeah, at this point, definitely taking pictures, definitely sharing to Discord. That the deal is sealed, right? Do what you must. We have already won. And that's it. That is how challenge tier 3 of Secrets and Shadows went down. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I might be live by the time you're seeing this on Twitch, just trying to run it with the Relegate Daka, but if not, we'll be back soon. Thanks for watching. Happy hunting. Or maybe don't hunt this one. I don't know, man.